Welcome back to the news, everybody. I've got fantastic stories for you today. I mean, Sony, they're dropping a cool $2 billion a year into live service games. Will most of them be rubbish? Probably. There's a lot else too. I mean, a player has accidentally went so hard against Bungie that they've managed to set a new legal precedent. We've got voice actors who are saying that they're not being paid by the Genshin Impact people, but the Genshin Impact people, in fact, disagree, and a bunch of other stories. Payday 3, the Steam Deck attacking ROG ally, Square Enix perhaps changing some plans with FF16, and a whole bunch else. Let's just get stuck in. So I feel we've been kind of leading the charge and letting everyone know that Sony's going absolutely wild into the live service games. Now though, Nikkei are reporting that they are betting, well, big, but this time with some numbers, because $2.13 billion is going to be fed into the games division alone this fiscal year, and that is approximately 40% of the whole research and development spend of Sony. Remember, that's R&D, and it's Sony. Sony make a lot of things other than just the PlayStation. But in a way, this does make sense. The PS5 is approaching the middle of its lifespan, and the hardware sales are great, but it does track that they would want to be doubling down on their monetization elsewhere. Now, this also aligns with Nikkei's reporting that Sony are projecting that they expect the whole market for add-on content to actually reach $19 billion in 2026, and obviously, they want a big sloppy piece of that pie. And this reporting also matches up with some job listings that were found for PlayStation London studios. It was all about basically wanting a combat designer, and it confirmed that the game will have a well-balanced roster of heroes, in a game where the designer will be collaborating with gunplay and live operations designers to build an engaging and scalable skills and progression system that retains players. Are we going to be rats in a maze? Undoubtedly, it's the name of the game. Will we be happy rats or sad rats? That is the question, and how much money will Sony lose or gain in the process? So there you go, I guess PlayStation Overwatch, 100% confirmed. Anyhow, they also do have the metaverse in their plan a little bit, but not in a bad way, because it's stuff with PSVR 2 at its center. PSVR 2 is a really dope piece of hardware. It really is. It's an absolutely cracking headset. The problem is, it's tied to PlayStation. And that does mean you get some great software, but it also means you can't just throw it on your PC and play modded Beat Saber, meaning I will literally never buy it. And of course the whole plan is that Bungie have essentially been acquired as their in-house live service gaming experts. In fact, the game from Deviation Games, we believe, was either canned or scaled way back or rebooted because basically Bungie flew in and gave a bunch of feedback and said, nah, it's not good. Now, of course, it is rather funny that Bungie are having a whole host of their own issues, as I outlined in a recent video, where yes, I did mistakenly mix up Dungeons and Strikes. Whoops, that is my bad, but I think the core point still stands. Next then, and speaking of Bungie, this is completely unacceptable. Right. There are obviously very legitimate complaints, and you are absolutely right to complain about things because you're not being treated well, you're not getting a fair deal, you maybe feel like you're being nickeled and dimed, and it's right to say to a company, hey, I'm your customer and you are making me unsatisfied. When it comes to a targeted campaign of doxing and leaving threatening voicemails on people's personal phones, I think then things get a hell of a lot worse. And as if that's not enough, also stuff for the family of a community manager and ordering pizzas to the home of the employee. Somehow I don't think that the free pizza was the point. This is completely insane. And I guess for a bit of a frame of mind of the person who would have done this, they are so out of their mind that they're going after a community manager, who obviously has got pretty much absolutely no part in any of the things that they will be complaining about. Seriously, people in general have no idea just how much red tape and stuff like that community managers have got to step around. Their job is very, very hard, suffice to say. This is the sort of thing that somebody should be legally liable for because, I mean, it's obvious, right? You're sending threatening voicemails to people. That shouldn't be a thing that, that you can legally do. It isn't. And the individual has now been taken to court. And, the defendant actually didn't show up to court, even though they were taken to it. So legal victory goes to Bungie. Congratulations, Bungie. The individual in question is now liable for nearly $500,000 in damages. Yes, the troll got punished, that's fun. However, there's a layer to this. The judge recognized that really their decision here will set some legal precedent. Online harassment escalates through doxing into a threat of physical violence, and that absolutely is the case. And I know that some people are going to be very, oh, it's just online, you know, Tyler the Creator, put your phone down. No, like, when it's voicemails on your actual telephone and pizza going to your actual house, proving somebody knows where you live and they could just go and do something. That absolutely is the kind of thing that is happening in meat space and needs to be treated with the utmost severity. So it is a good thing, actually, that a legal precedent has been set here. This will set the tone for judges to work out what to do in future instances of this. And this precedent actually does get better, because it also entered into state law a recognition that employees harassed as a result of their employment are able to be protected by their employer, and in fact that employees have a duty to protect staff in those cases. I mean, I even know of cases outside of the games industry in the States where people have had issues, like that with, you know, not in sort of law enforcement or anything like that role, but, you know, being exposed to people as a, you know, part of their job and ending up not really getting the support that they need. So this is actually good. This is an example of it. Video games equals good. Yes, don't act like a literal crazy person, and maybe things will be just all right. Next then, Genshin Impact, because a bunch of voice actors have voiced frustrations at MiHoYoverse, as they're now called, basically detailing that they've gone months without actually being paid, and this is of course for one of the largest, most profitable games in the world. Here's somebody saying, been working for months unpaid on a big project for a studio. I'm owed thousands of dollars. I'm struggling to pay rent because of this. This project has made billions. This project should be, I assume they mean to say, unionized. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So we've got Brandon and Karina here, who voice several characters in the game, even including Paimon, who's a fan favorite. Some follow-up stuff here is that for Karina, she has actually not attended voice acting sessions as a result of this, and Winkler said he wouldn't be taking the gigs anymore unless he got a new contract that's in line with union rules. But here's what's interesting. This may be a problem of middlemen, because both actors laid the blame, at least partially, at the hands of a voiceover studio called Formosa. They're one of the several ones that MiHoYoverse use. Basically, they have a lack of union contracts that clearly is giving their workers no protection, meaning that people are going months without being paid. Now, after these messages went viral, the very, very online Genshin Impact community obviously was quite angry about this. They love those characters, they love the voicing, they don't want to see those people be treated wrong. And now MiHoYo have actually stepped in here and they've said, we truly regret to learn about the ongoing situation. We have made payments to a recording studio on time, and we have immediately urged the studio to pay our voice actors. So it seems that they've basically said, listen, we paid Formosa. Please pay the people you're working with, Formosa. But they did say, thankfully, that they will be looking at alternative solutions to presumably help with all of this. So there you go. The more companies there are in the chain, the more points of failure there are. Okay, that's a lot of our big stories, but I do have quite a few other ones. Payday 3 is going to be always online. I think you can understand why when you think about what a Payday game in the modern day would be, and indeed it's a game that I'm actually kind of excited for. I remember downloading Payday 2 onto my PS5 and then immediately removing it because it ran at 30 FPS. So the prospect of this gameplay on a new device, to me, especially if they were able to do couch co-op, which I guess because it's modern day maybe they won't, which is depressing, but anyway, right, it's a bit of a crazy situation. Starbreeze nearly went insolvent in 2019, and they've only survived because of restructuring, some IP sales, including System Shock, and laying off a quarter of their staff, plus a pretty healthy $50 million publishing deal from Embracer Group for Payday 3. And now we found out that Payday 3 is going to be an always online game, and for a lot of people, they're not particularly thrilled, because while absolutely you can understand Payday as a sort of online game with servers and all that progression, well, number one, it's potentially going to kill modding, which is not good, and if Starbreeze go under, it will be quite bad for the game. You'd hope they wouldn't go under almost a second time. This is, of course, an ongoing thing. We've all talked about it. I mean, still in the comments of Diablo 4 content, I see a lot of people saying, hey, where's offline? And it's like, that's been gone for a long, long time, but I wish we could go back, but it's gone. Which is really quite sad. But I think in this case, it's rough for that community because whenever Starbreeze weren't able to show up and support the game, a lot of the modders did. And if this ends up killing modding, well, that's going to feel pretty damn bad, considering mods are how a lot of people actually experience this game in a continued fashion for years. I hope that they were able to do something here. Absolutely. Next. ROG Ally's tech issues. Because yes, the Steam Deck's big competitor is heating up. And it might take some shit with it too. Right, the ROG Ally honestly looks like a bloody fantastic piece of kit. I mean, it is extremely competitive with the Steam Deck. I think it's just great that we're actually getting high performance devices within this space. Certainly, one then looks at a Nintendo Switch and thinks, ah, you're a mid-range phone from 8 years ago. Come on, Switch Pro, where are you, man? Anyhow. Right, here's what happens. Tom's Hardware brought this to us, and the ROG Ally is now subject to an issue that causes components near the SD slot to heat up inordinately to the point where it'll basically fry the card. What they're going to do is a firmware update that will, I assume, just change... Oh, they said change the fan stuff, so I imagine, like, tune the fan curves, just... you know, make that different. They're going to be accepting RMAs for anybody who is hurt by this, but basically, there you go. Overheating issue strikes the ROG Ally, but otherwise it is a truly stupendous piece of kit. Next, Square Enix are now thinking about FF16 DLC. Kind of interesting. Obviously, there was a stream of DLC for FF15, and then that kind of got cancelled, and stuff with FF15 generally is very, very, very bizarre. Now, they said that they have no plans for anything beyond the, like, story that they've shipped with FF16, but now that the game's out, they're a bit happier to talk about what actually might happen, because here's what Yoshi P said when speaking to Gamer Braves. Now we understand we're getting a lot of feedback from players that have played the game, and a lot of players want to see more, and we know and understand that. For us, we're taking that and thinking about our options moving forward. So, that would actually be pretty sweet. As for FF16, for my continued experience with it, I am getting more aggravated by the side quest design. The combat by default is way too easy. And yeah, my impressions have actually got a bit worse now that I'm like a few more hours into it. Maybe they'll get better, but at least discussing it with Matt, we both think it was a fairly major loss that the, it's called Final Fantasy difficulty, that is not something that you can actually do from the get-go. You're only able to do that in a New Game Plus way. And yeah, no, certainly I think FF16 is actually too easy, and it is too easy to the point where I enjoy its combat system less. It's kind of weird. It's like I always have to, instead of being guided by the inherent difficulty of the game, I just have to keep like pinching myself and saying, no, go for style, Michael, go for style. You know you can beat the shit out of this boss easily, but the way to have fun is to be stylish. And yeah, I kind of just wish it was harder. Anyhow. Next, then, Google has said yes to NFT games and apps. There are caveats, though, for the Google Play Store. And the caveats basically are around adherence to policies on gambling, games, and contests, which actually means no way to pay money to win NFTs. And you've got to know what you're buying, so you won't be allowed to have any kind of loot box style mechanisms where you are getting variants. But the thing is that all of this is being followed up with essentially more deep integration with secondary markets on Android, which actually means that there are plenty more ways to monetize, which does mean that it's opened up to the kind of gross stuff, solidifying this app store as a platform for the sorts of monetization that, frankly, we all very much don't like. Yeah, kind of rough, and especially rough following Google doing some extra work to get Android games like running on PC with Google Play Games and allowing for more flexibility in terms of how developers can offer titles. So that's seemingly the good here is just going to be sort of gobbled up by more mobile game stuff. Kind of sucks, because even though there are these caveats, it basically is saying blockchain games and NFTs are a go. And in the same way that like there's a lot of free-to-play bullshit that you can't really get away with doing on a main AAA game, you can get away with that on mobile. So if they can get play-to-win going, they're absolutely going to do that. You know, I mean, you could even see how to a bunch of mobile gamers, it might even seem more of an alluring prospect than a free-to-play game, right? Yeah, rough. And finally, have you ever wanted to enjoy Assassin's Creed so hard you literally get beaten up? I can kind of understand that. This is, for Assassin's Creed Mirage, and it is a collaboration between Ubisoft and OWO, who do a haptic gaming system. Now, I've got to admit, haptics are pretty sick. Like, you see when you use like the Valve, the Knuckles controllers they have for the Steam or the Valve Index, like, man, the haptics on that are so good. Imagine that, but your whole body. It'd be fantastic. You get kicked in the balls in the game and you immediately go, oh, in real life. Okay, maybe not that, because it does seem that the haptic feedback does end just above the belt. But I'm pretty sure that some intrepid hackers could solve that problem for us. Anyhow, the idea is that this is a wireless shirt that can stimulate impacts in-game on the player's body via haptic pads. Now, could I imagine putting one of these on, going onto a sort of a shooter game on my, on my Oculus, my Meta Quest, and just standing there letting all the bullets hit me, right? You know, do you want to finally live out your Scarface fantasies in VR? Maybe this will let you do it. Now, the thing is that this is $499 on their website. It would have to be quite special to justify that. Now, they do say that this version will incorporate new sensations never felt before in previous versions. So sadly, they have not unlocked new dimensions of the human experience via their haptic shirt. But honestly, as much as I take the piss out of this, everyone thinks about the holodeck in Star Trek, right? And it's like the holodeck is space magic. If we could get a little bit close to a holodeck, that would be, yeah, kind of neat. So as much as this is absolutely not something that you need, and yes, it's just ways to do a flashy tie-in, everyone earns some money, happy, as much as all of that is true, when I think about a company like this, what are they doing? They're building a shirt that means that, like, whenever your character gets shot, you feel it. Now, outside of a virtual reality context, I struggle to see this being a particularly strong thing. I don't know. I'll say this. Hey, OWO, send us one. I'll try it out for you. And with this final, perhaps literally heart-pounding story, that is it for today's news. I hope you found today's episode to be entertaining. I suppose with that, have a brilliant day. There's more stuff in the channel. Of course, we do nearly daily videos, so there's a high chance you've missed something back there. Anyway, have a good one. See you next time.